Welcome to Cast of Creators. We're your hosts. I'm Nelson Thal.
And I'm Casey Stewart. We've spent our careers in media and publishing, and now we're setting the stage for creative people who inspire us to share their stories.
Our guest this episode is George Sully. He's an award-winning fashion designer and serial entrepreneur, creating brands like House of Hyla, Sully Wong, and Sully & Son. In this episode, we talk about overcoming obstacles, fatherhood, founding Black Designers of Canada, and how the fashion industry is changing for the better. Let's get into it. Great. Well, George, welcome.
Thank you.
It's wonderful to have you here.
Glad to be here.
We created Cast of Creators thinking of people in mind just like yourself, and I see you as a 360-degree creator.
I'll take that.
Not only, video content, design, mechanical, like you're unbelievable with your hands, building shoes, working on your bike. It's just awesome to see.
Thank you.
And rare to see so many parts of the creative and brain firing. And it's awesome.
I appreciate that. I think that it comes from my upbringing for sure. My parents were creators in themselves, entrepreneurs. Mother was a painter, sculptor. She catered. She did some nursing part-time. But then I grew up just watching her sew, watching her do all these things, and just be a super mom, and it being okay to do these diverse things. I never looked at things as being you're doing too much. It's just kind of like, what are you not doing?
Yeah.
And if you're not doing that, add to it. Because it's kind of like it's a tapestry of all these things. And my father, jewelry maker, he was also an artist, sketch artist. My oldest brother, sketch artist, sculptor, painter. My brother Al, he just finished writing a kid's book. I actually helped him with it. But he was into furniture and furniture design forever.
Wow.
And then my sister, voiceover artist. You know
Amazing.
what I mean? And then myself. So it's kind of like you're looking at all these facets. It's never been choose one thing. It's always been wherever you're going, having these disciplines will always help you along the way. And it started with not learning. Like, I remember at the beginning, I used to have people do my bidding. Like, I started in music, so it's kind of like, yo, you can make my beat, or can you make my this? And then realizing you never had the money. And not having the money is just kind of like, now you're doing favors. But then when you're asking for favors, what happens? It's going to take all the time that they on their time.
Yeah.
And then you don't want to ask, but then you want to say, well, look, I'm blowing up, and like, only if you do this for me, like, you'll see one day, you'll be able to benefit. But right.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, you can't pay in the one day, right?
Yeah.
Do you play instruments?
Actually, yeah, I do. I play drums. Drums is my instrument.
Me too.
Oh, that's what's up.
Yeah.
That's what's up.
Amazing.
You know what? I went to an event just the other day, like two nights ago. And it was a nice little jazz little situation. Actually, it was on Sunday. And we finished watching the show, and I said, you know what, I got to talk to the drummer after. And after it was finished, I said, can I touch your pedal? He's just like, and he didn't even do the awkward. He's like, sure. I'm like, I want to feel the tension.
Right. Yeah.
The way you were playing,
Absolutely.
I'm like, I love how, you were firing off your kicks. And I'm just like, can I touch your pedal?
Yeah.
And he's just like,
I understand.
Absolutely. Yeah. See, if as a drummer, you're like, yeah, absolutely. I went behind his drum set, and no disrespect, it's kind of like, I'm going to try to start playing on another man's drum set. But like, I fiddled with the tension. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And I kicked it a couple times. I'm like, all right, cool. And it was a wink, wink.
Yeah.
A dab, absolutely. And then I was out. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And it's just like, drummers,
yeah, much respect.
Drummers.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, if you don't have that tension right and kick drum doesn't feel great, you can't really play it as quickly.
Absolutely.
And as a young drummer, if you don't have that tuned in, you can really lag beyond your own capabilities.
Absolutely.
Because it's just,
big.
It doesn't feel, it's not giving you the feedback you need to play at the speed you want.
Absolutely.
Same with footwear, playing the drums. Neil Peart, he wore dance shoes, which you may know. He wore dance shoes, but I can't play with rubber-soled shoes. I play in socks.
Got you.
I can't.
So I play socks or barefoot if I'm at home. It's just naturally just going in. And it's everything. Like you said, it could stunt you for so long, and it's just kind of like, you got to get it right. And you can only know that by if you're blessed having access to a really great drummer, because when are the times you will ever have access to drummers or different drummers at X amount of times? It's very rare, because drummers, a guitarist, sure, everybody has a guitar at home, you can plug it in real quick. Yeah. But to have a full set, to be able to play, like especially a live set. Like if you haven't gotten evicted a couple times as a drummer, you ain't a real drummer. Right. You know what I mean? Like you know what I mean? Like drummers have.
Yeah. Oh, Sean plays and Emily plays. His daughter. Yeah.
Man, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like to have a drum set, like to be able to bang, it takes a whole environment to help a drummer grow.
Yeah.
Because
it sure does.
Unless it's electrical, I have an electrical now.
Yeah, that's nice.
I had electrical just to keep
100%.
it, man, just to keep it. But like, I'd love to play on a live set again because
I've looked at those Roland TD-20s for like 15 years. You know, like
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the technology is crazy. Like the set that I have is a Yamaha. It's sick, man. Yeah. It's sick. Anyways, let's get back to this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah,
that's great.
Awesome. So basically you got into music.
Yeah,
and then you were drumming / producing, and this in Toronto,
it was in Ottawa, right?
In Ottawa, okay.
I was born in Ottawa, and I mean I've been in here for over 20 years now. So it's funny how growing up in Ottawa and the time is like I've been here longer than I've been in Ottawa, which is really weird to feel.
Yeah.
Like just by numbers, I'm Toronto, but I'm from like I'll always have that Ottawa feeling in my heart because that's where that's where I'm from. That's where I grew up. Obviously, like public housing and the whole experience of all these things, and never really knowing that we were on welfare, never knowing these things because like the community around us was just so energetic, and the kids and everything else.
You speak French?
Je parle français, oui.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know you speak French.
Oh, for real? Yeah.
Wow.
My background is Haitian, so my mom always spoke French.
Oh, wow.
She never actually got to really speaking heavy English. My father spoke both, and Creole as well. So I'm fluent in Creole, French, and English.
Oh, cool.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. Because we had to translate with my mother. Like we spoke to my mother in French and Creole and so on and so forth. So we just always had that.
Yeah, cool. I wouldn't know it. Like listening to you speak English,
right.
I wouldn't know it.
Alors pour voir, je parle français, c'est mon premier langage.
But it's interesting because you grew up in a bilingual household, trilingual.
Trilingual.
And you don't really wear it in any accent.
Yeah, well,
English.
It's funny because I realized I'm like I don't know whether I spoke French or English first.
Right.
It's weird, right?
It is weird. When I think of my daughter trying to, what really is your first word? What do you pick up first? But those years are phenomenal for languages.
For sure. I was talking about my son Adrian. He just picked up language so fast, and I recently went to Mexico, and without any prompting, just the fact that he was hearing us and listening to us saying gracias, you know what I mean, or ¿cómo estás? Gracias, to the waiting and the staff and the things and all the back and forth. By the time, next morning, you know what I mean? Like, they come in with breakfast and the whole thing, and they're leaving, and he's like, gracias.
Yeah.
And we're like,
amazing.
This kid, he just picks up language, and, like, all of a sudden, he's watching Dora, Dora the Explorer, and he's picking up Spanish. We're not putting it on him. It's just whatever he's watching, he loves to digest information. You know what I mean? So it's a beautiful thing to watch it continue and so on and so forth. And
how have you balanced the iPad and technology in his life?
That's a great question.
Because I'm thinking about that because I just bought Ariel her first iPad.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, it's a
crazy case on these things.
Yeah.
She could throw
it.
Yeah, absolutely. Got the same case. Probably got the same case.
That's what Emily had in
Amazon everything.
Yeah, I know.
He's definitely an Amazon baby. Like, no, for good or bad. Like, don't at home they'd be like, God, down with George, the Amazon baby. No, but like it's
exactly.
Technology has helped so much in raising children now. Mm-hmm. The things that are available for their minds and how I've been able to manage it. We have this. We order Love Every. Love Every is it's a Montessori. It's a group of doctors and Montessori parents that have come together to really put this system of toys together. Every month you get a new box, and they tell you it teaches the cognitive. It all these different facets, and it teaches the child at that stage in their period of month 1, month 2, month 3, month 4, all the way up until like they're 5 years old. And not only are they great wood toys, but every toy has a purpose.
Yeah.
And it teaches the kids all these things. So we mixed that with Baby Bum. Baby Bum was really amazing because it taught him song, it taught him lessons of, kindness and teaching and caring and all these other things.
Yeah.
And like, to be honest, between Love Every and these other television shows for him all along from Baby Bum was when he was young, because he could see these great things and the great songs and great but then the more he got older, the more it's kind of like we introduced just educational fun and educational.
Yeah.
Because we didn't have that as kids. We had Spider-Man.
Right.
Spider-Man, and what?
Yeah, exactly.
And what?
And you know what? And the technology wasn't as powerful
Absolutely.
to lull us. Who knows what would have happened if we had content with this technology?
Absolutely. Like, I could tell you that the mix of playing in real life and the mix of iPad, it's the most beautifulest thing, because what he's learning and then what he's watching on television, it translates into his learning. It's kind of like the system
one helps the other.
One helps the other. And it's just kind of like, he's a beast.
Yeah, that's amazing.
He's a beast. And it's just kind of like, to be honest, does he know Spider-Man and Batman so well? To be honest, he doesn't. And not that it's kind of like, we're just kind of like, no, he's not allowed. It's not that. It's just not interested in that.
Mm-hmm.
And why would he be? Because it's kind of like, he wants to know what a volcano, like I swear to God, if he was here, he would show you guys what a volcano and how it's supposed to react. And we do all these nice little experiments and all these things that he just loves it, because he grew up in television shows teaching him experiments.
Yes.
Television shows teaching him how to play instruments and educating the ABCs. He knew his ABC so fast because it was a system of Love Every with the toys with the ABCs, and then television ABCs, and then these he was doing spelling of his name. He didn't know what these letters were, but on the iPad, it's kind of like he was able to mimic what a B is.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So by the time he knew what an A was, he already knew his ABCs. He's not even in kindergarten. He's in daycare.
Yeah,
that's great.
And he knows his ABCs. He knows he just knows everything. Like, do we even need to go to daycare, like to kindergarten?
Yeah,
he can go straight to grade 1.
Right. That's what I did. I went to Montessori as a kid, and like
and look at her. That's the whole point. Is what I'm trying to say.
But my sister and I both did, and I didn't do kindergarten. I just went straight to grade 1.
And there it is. So that it makes sense,
like
right?
the teachings of, like, my mom was at home when I was a kid, and she kind of developed this way to teach us reading. We could read really, really early.
Absolutely.
And she kind of used the teachings of Maria Montessori to help us to learn things. And that helped my sister and I excel in school. Like, I was in the enrichment program every year.
I don't need to say anything else. Like that. Yeah, that's exactly.
Lots of reading, summer reading club at the library. Like, we always were reading books. And like, I didn't watch a lot of those other shows, because like I was playing outside and I was reading and doing stuff. So
practical
that's really
stuff,
good.
like it's so you see that the pattern and the template.
Yeah.
So you think that it's unique, but it's not. If you go this way, which is just a practical way, like he just, like we were talking about, religion and certain things and whatnot. My mother was super religious, and so we went to Catholic school. We went to these things, and I grew up after, becoming my own person and saying,
I don't know.
Yeah,
So I'm like, my son, with the technology and everything that he's learned and everything that he's about, he's going to be, I just don't understand, understand to me like a dude. Just in 3 days later, he resurrect. Like, no, like he, like,
like dad,
by
really?
4, like by 4, he's gonna be. It makes no sense, because you raised me in a reality-based system of reality.
Mm-hmm.
Of, like, we know what's play and what's pretend, and we know what's real and what's whatnot. So it's kind of like, it's just different. And I want to just teach my son the practicality stuff, just the stuff that just makes sense in the world that he's living in. And you know what I mean? Sure, I believe in there's something else. There's something. But to say that this story that was overtold and so on and so, we can go into all that.
Yeah.
But not today.
That's a whole other episode.
Exactly.
Not today. It's a whole other episode. But
the thing that's interesting about the choices you've made is you're really catering to, everybody learns in a different way.
Right.
And you're sort of you're making sure that he's being taught in different ways, in a physical, practical way, and through a screen, and you increase your odds of at least getting on target with one of the techniques.
Most
and I'm
definitely.
sure the earlier that you do it, you'll find that the child will be able to learn through multiple different techniques.
And enjoy learning.
Which is great.
And enjoy learning.
Enjoy learning.
Like to that, like, thirst for knowledge and wanting to know things and having the ability to seek out answers and find them.
Absolutely. He's that kid. Yeah. And so it's kind of like, we just went this way because it was just the natural way to go. It's kind of like, I'm not the plastic Fisher Price, just nonsense things for things. And hopefully he learns his cognizance and learning certain things in this toy where it's kind of like Love Every said, we did all the math and you get a book this thick saying these blocks, this is what he will get out of it. And if you need a little help, read through the things. But like, I'll put it like this. When we first put him in a daycare, he was not but a little under one. Like one, I think it's like one and change. To me, just make it fast. But like, we remember because we're on King Street and we have like a daycare right in the building. Yeah. We can look down and watch what's going on. Oh, that's nice. Right? So literally, I remember we just put him in there and it's kind of like he couldn't really even, like, he was just speaking, but he wasn't like, right?
Yeah.
I remember watching him go in there and he saw blocks and the guy's building a tower. And all the kids, how old did they start? He was just like just before one, I think.
Wow.
Just at one.
Okay.
Like, and he just
he's a baby.
And he was always on the spectrum of taller and bigger in that thing. So at his weight curve, he was at the biggest weight and then the biggest height. So when other kids at that age looked like babies, he looked like, hey, how old is he? He's like 2? Yeah. It's like, no, he's like 1.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, wow.
Awesome.
And he was doing these things and you'd see the kids like group around. He was always that type of, and then we're like, he's in his own place. So he likes to suck in knowledge and things.
Yeah.
We don't no longer have to feed that in. We no longer have to feed that. He wants that. So we're making sure that he gets what he wants.
Yeah.
And what he wants is the caviar. That's what he wants the caviar of knowledge, of things. Yeah. Like, it's impressive. And at the same time, it's kind of like hearing you talk about these things that you went through. Then I'm like, it's not like unique as much as it's something if you treat your child with respect.
Yeah, I agree.
And not goo goo gaga. Like we used to say like, okay, Adrian, act like a baby. He's like, goo goo gaga, goo goo gaga. Because that was the thing. Yeah. He didn't know that till that's what babies do.
Right.
But he never did that.
Right.
I never said, oh, you want some, I don't even know. We would just say like milk. We'd say milk.
Yeah.
But a lot of parents, oh, do you want some
Silky juice? I don't know.
Like some juju, some whatever, like a nickname? No nicknames, no whatever.
I'm like that too.
You know what? You know what I mean?
I'm not a fan of starting to nickname baby
because you're not giving him the respect of he's a human.
Yeah, I agree.
He's just smaller than you.
Yeah.
But treating him like a baby, you're going to get a baby. But treating him like a human, you're going to get the respect, and he's going to learn and adapt in his environment. You're a product of your environment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Period,
like sometimes I'll listen to parents or mothers and they'll call their daughter or son a troublemaker, like cute, like call them like, oh, you troublemaker, you know what I mean? Right. And I think, oh, like if you start, calling your baby a troublemaker, what do you think that's ultimately going to result in? Absolutely. And then another thing I hear people talking to their children, very harsh tone, barking tone. Yeah. And if they start associating barking, harsh tones with love, you've got your own set of problems there as well.
Absolutely.
So I completely agree with you. And then, if you want someone to be responsible, you've got to dole out responsibility.
Absolutely.
And you pick your moments where they need to be responsible for certain things.
I say my parents growing up, I mean, they're from the island. So, the good old fold the belt and do that snap.
Right.
The old slipper, put your hands out. And the thing is that when it didn't hurt, we're trying to, my mom would be like, take our slipper and we start to laugh. And she's like, oh, for real?
Really?
Oh, for real? And then she'd take it on other levels. Well, I'm not going to say on the podcast, but because that was the island, the old school ways.
Yeah, old school ways.
But just to say, it's just kind of like, I like to discipline hard and love hard. Mm-hmm. He knows the difference. He knows when something is wrong, but I'm right back there. I don't hold a grudge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I love him hard. And my father never did that with us. He was very disciplined, but he never showed love. You know, if he ever said, I love you, only later in life. You know, I love you, Dad, and then like, I love you, and see you later. But he didn't do that way. And I'm like, with my son, he's going to know love, what love, hard love, annoying love.
Yeah.
Annoying love feels. You know, you grab him and he's like, he's finally annoyed, right? So he's annoyed.
No, that's nice.
But you discipline hard in the sense of like, you know that when daddy's mad. But when daddy, you know what I mean? He knows the difference.
Yeah,
there's no gray area and so on and so forth. And so I'm respecting him that way because, you know, there is no the belt. There is no on your knees with rice on Pure Islands styles, you know.
That's going to be really helpful when it's like growing up. Like
and for sure.
Time,
and yeah, like he's a great kid. And so, but it's not by accident. There's things that were put into place to give him a guiding light to somewhere. And
do you ever have people come up to you, because people say this to me? They go, "Oh, George, you're so lucky he's so good." You know what I mean? Do you have people say that to you? Well, people say that to me. I go, I mean, I've read books. You know what I mean? When she came home from the hospital, we're starting day one, like we're doing good stuff. You know what I mean? Absolutely. We're putting good techniques to practice. It's like, no, she could be terrible, you know?
Yeah.
But yes, she is good.
I've gotten that, but at the same time, people who know me.
Yeah.
Oh, like she knows.
They would expect that.
So she's like, of course. Motor mouth. He's sounding like, you know, he likes the ladies. Like we've had to teach him that it's just like everybody comes in different things, in different shapes, and different things. We've had to teach him that.
Yeah.
Because it's the craziest thing. We're in the elevator. A really good looking girl. We're all staring. Mama's staring too. You know, we appreciate nice things. And he's just like, and he's getting high.
Yeah.
Like he wants to do that. He's all over it.
Yeah,
and then there's other instances when, you know, like, you know, when he has an angry face or he hides behind Hyla. We're like, why is it? And then we're looking, we're like, because, you know, and we're like, we have to say, hey, brother, life is different things. You can't just be nice to. It's the weirdest thing because these are things that those microcosms, like you don't know it till you really see it, because we're like, how does he know? How does he distinguish what's beautiful or what's not? And it's just kind of like, but we are in the business of, you know what I mean? So events or things or what he sees or what he watches mommy and daddy, we're in the business of entertainment and things. So these are things you got to keep an eye on naturally. So like, that's our problem. Some of the problems are like, you know what I mean? Like, you know, raising a child in poverty. That's a completely different thing. I went through that.
Wow.
So what we looked at wasn't like what nice people look like. We're looking like, you know, what we're going to wear. How are we going to live? What are we going to
what are we going to eat? Yeah.
Right? Anyways, so.
How many brothers and sisters do you have?
I have 2 brothers and 1 sister, and I'm the youngest of.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Do they have kids?
My oldest brother, no. My sister, yes, she has 1 son, and my brother has 4 kids.
Oh, great.
Absolutely. He taught me a lot.
I bet.
He taught me a lot.
You got to watch them.
Yeah, I got to watch the whole thing to see the process.
That's really nice.
Yeah. And I'm a Taurus, so I'm a control freak.
You're a Taurus? Oh my. When's your birthday?
Of course you are. Of course you are. And it's not by Tauruses is not by accident. I can call Tauruses from a mile away.
Yeah.
So it makes sense. I never even asked you, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
What's your birthday?
April 30th.
May 8th.
May 8th. There it is. There it is. Yeah.
I'm always like, when I find someone that I've found my whole life, I've had a couple friends who had the same birthday as me, or one of my best friends is the day after me. But that like early group of Taurus specifically, that those people, I really just we connect, man.
There's something to it.
Yeah, every Taurus I know is just like go-getter, aggressive, don't take no shit, stubborn. These are all things like I'm a poster child. Like I have like the taurine. I have like scrolled on my side.
Oh, wow.
It's like the taurine definition of Taurus.
Awesome. I also have a Taurus tattoo.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, so I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
So we might as well segue into how did you two meet?
How did we meet?
I think okay, you go first. Must have been.
It must have been in the event, early days of social media.
Yeah, for sure.
Or definitely early days of social media.
Absolutely.
Could have been like around the time I was doing stuff with Virgin America. I had a blog. It was like before Instagram, for sure.
Absolutely.
It was in the Twitter days of like media, when I kind of first started going to media events, probably like over 10 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Chad Magazine.
Oh, yes. Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, like around those times when it's just kind of like, absolutely. Must have been. Because we were out there. And anybody else who's in social media was out there.
And there was a feature on me in the back of the magazine one time.
I'm sure there was.
I still have a copy.
I have every copy.
Yeah, I bet.
Every copy.
They used to have a magazine.
Yeah, it comes full circle because, and talking about my curve and what I've gone through, and to produce something at that caliber. I guess we'll go that to a little later. I don't know how long we got.
We got time.
Okay.
We got time.
Because you can chop us up too.
Yeah, it's
fine. But the thing is that for the longest time, and again, because this is good that we go back that long, now you can kind of get the other side of how I felt about things. Because doing something, and even going before Chad Quarterly, it was Limb Apparel. That's when I started my clothing thing. But before that, it was the music.
So Limb Apparel is the first time you got into a clothing business.
Yeah, this was the first time I started.
When you came to Toronto after the music.
Yeah, that's right.
And did this start by you just loving to sketch stuff? Like
it's coming where I'm from. My mom
your mom was sewing,
like she did it all.
Drawing.
Yeah. And for me, I was just, I like any superhero has a utility belt, like Batman. It's just kind of like I had these things and I could pull them out at any time I needed to express myself and know that that's a lane to live.
Yeah.
Graphic design was the fundamentals of everything that I've done. So that was a way to live. And realizing that graphic design was something that you can make money. Started doing little posters when I got to the city, different posters, and I'm like, yo, you're really good. Can you do that for me? And it's just kind of finding out that you can make a good amount of money doing people's graphic design. At the time, I remember back in the day, posters for the events, flyers,
posters, flyers,
all the things.
Everything.
It's just kind of like, I'm like, this is dope. And always being able to have something and that I can utilize to get myself further in life. First, it's survival, right? Yeah. First, it's eating. First, it's all these things. But the fashion, the music was kind of like, I'm not getting anywhere. And then Napster, nobody knows that it is. So it's going to be a joke because I'm be like, what the hell is he talking about? That system started to come out and people started to say like, hey, music is changing. Right. Because this kid is saying he made this app that you could just download it for free.
Yeah. Throws a wet blanket on the whole thing.
When you're young as I am, and here I am putting thousands of dollars, and you're already getting taken from the studios. They're taken from you. You know what I mean? Like they're robbing you blind already. Yeah. It was just kind of like, how can I ever make money now? Even if I wasn't, maybe I was, my mind was like, I'm going to be rich, right? Yeah. Of course. But understanding that it's like, now what do I do? Because here I am, again, it's a lane. I'm just knocking on whatever lane that I can drive through, knowing that I have all these different acumens to drive myself where I want to be. Okay, so if music is not going to be successful, let me just pivot this way, because at the time, these are all things that are happening in real time. So then Diddy does hey, you know what I mean? I'm a musician. I'm going to start a brand, because everyone started brand labels. Like Fubu was successful. He saw that and he's like, I'm going to start a brand too. Yeah. And then he did his pivot and I'm like, that's interesting, because I have a whole bunch of friends in music, DJs and all types of really cool people. I'm like, you know what? I can do the same thing too. And so I saw his model. I'm like, he turned his music into fashion and melted the two. And I'm like, I have music and I have fashion, so I'll melt the two. So I used all these different artists and different personalities and DJs and things. And then I started Limb Apparel, because I'm like, Limb Apparel, authentic street for all that is your extension. Yeah. So if I said, okay, so what's your extension? Be like, my personality. I love life. I love going out. That's your extension of yourself. Yeah. So like a ligament, it's just as important to you. Right. And so Limb Apparel was born, and I start using all these artists to help promote it. they're already looking for promotion. They're all looking for free gear anyways. Yeah. So I start dishing out this gear. They're rocking the gear. And then all of a sudden.
The early days of what we now call influencer marketing.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. Kids are, you know, a lot of the youth are like, man, how did you get so quick on the thing? And like, dude, I've been doing it. If we had the mind sense to just create our own apps, then we would have been, you know what I mean? But that's the thing. Doing all these things without the help, without the social.
Yeah.
Okay, so then take these things and go back to Chad Quarterly and these entities that I was developing. Limb Apparel got to a level of Athlete's World. And the only reason why you would know that is because I have pictures of me pointing at my shit on the shelf.
Mm-hmm. Right.
This is like 17 years.
I saw some on your website. I looked today, actually.
No, absolutely. Yeah. And the thing is that, like, if that wasn't there, you would never know it. And the reason why you'd never know it, because back in those times, for a long time, the industry didn't know how to celebrate people that looked like me. Mm-hmm. Period. Because here I am doing all these crazy things. And I was by myself, and a lot of the times, like Limb Apparel, like I was there was like major brands, but I was already going to Magic. I was already going to trade shows in the States. We were already doing these things way ahead of the curve. So you'll never know that I brought the trucker cap to Canada. You'll be like, yeah, right. I remember the trucker. I remember that. No, because 6 months ahead of the boom, we were with Christian ODG and all these guys partying in Vegas when they launched these trucker caps and Von Dutch and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
They were there. They just broke that. And we're like, this is dope. And I'm like, I'm going to go to these factories and whatever in Canada, which the trucker cap, if you went to any showroom, it was underneath.
Right.
Because there was no value to them. Nobody knew. So I'm like, I'm going to take all these trucker caps of what I've learned. And I knew that I was 6 months ahead.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So then I start putting all this stuff out. It's just so funny that when you go back into the history, you're like, I was always on the ball.
Yeah.
The ball was never on me. Like, it was never like, let's push this guy or let's raise him up. It was always whatever I did. All it took was somebody to take a fraction of what I was doing, and then they take off.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'd watch the leapfrog thing happen over and over and over again, because somebody would say, well, George, maybe your shit sucked. Maybe that's why you never popped in those times.
Right.
And then I'd be like, well, I was the only one I know in my circle, in my group, in my city, in my province at 21 years old with a product doing volume in Athlete's World.
Right.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Mic drop.
Yeah.
And the thing is that, I guess, like I am doing a project to kind of bring all this together. I don't want to say it yet. Well, next time I'm on the podcast.
So there's a chasm there. Okay. Like you're describing, there's a chasm there. Walk me through how, a competitor of yours at the time crosses that chasm. Like what momentum needs to get behind that brand?
Easy. It's called privilege. It's called, this is, and
but how does that privilege manifest into, how do they take advantage of the media and of whatever momentum you need to put in place? What happens?
It's easy.
What machine takes over and delivers the success?
Well, the machine was built for them, not for me, my likeness.
Right.
So it's kind of like, it's
also
easy.
built by them.
Also built by them. So they're not looking at anybody. And why would you? You can claim inclusion. You can claim all these things. That's the nice thing to say, because Canada, guess what? Claims inclusion, claims all these things. But if we look at the history,
yeah, we all know.
Let's when you delve into the history, which is very surface, you can dig. But if you don't want to look and you don't want to see it, then you won't talk about the indigenous. You're just going to go this, and you'll talk about 350 years. You'll talk about all these things that are right there for us to look at and understand. Systemic racism is so deeply rooted in just about everything. And it's so deeply rooted that you're blind to it, and you're so blind to it, I always call it carbon monoxide. I'm on this side choking. You're saying, George, what are you talking about? Like, this is Canada, George. What are you? And I'm just like, I'm trying to explain to you. You're like, well, I'm good. You want some water, George? It looks like you need some water.
Yeah.
And these are the things that, and for me, I'm a Taurus. So, okay, you're not letting me here and here. I'm not complaining about it. I'm just go this way. Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm locked here. I'm going to go this way. Yeah. And
making a path and leaving a trail.
Making a path and leaving a trail. And I've left a long path. You know, example as an artist, that's what my name as an artist. Limb Apparel. From Limb Apparel, Chad Corley. From Chad Corley, Sully Wong. From Sully Wong, Sully and Son. Sully and Son, House of Hyla.
Right.
I left a trail. I left proof all the way through. Absolutely. I knew that I had something, so I cataloged and categorized and archived everything. From my music all the way up until now, I have the pictures. I have what I would call archive, I'd call proof now.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to say the name, but I'm just finished a book.
Yeah, awesome.
I'm not going to say the name now.
Okay.
But I just finished the book because it was the most important thing now. Now that Canada stopped talking and wants to listen, I'm giving them something to listen to finally say, okay, you guys we're really on the same page now. We really understand that it wasn't me just being crazy, the angry black man, all these years saying, I have something here, but I'm not being listened to, but I'm being leapfrogged all the time. And I'm building actually brands. Like if Casey said, you know what, Sully, check this out. I want to build a fashion brand. No problem. She gives me a check. I turn her around. I do her photography. I do her logistics. I build her brand. I actually write her bio for her. I'll ask her, do you want to be the designer or do you want to be the artisan beside it? Because I'm like, I'll write for both. It depends. If you want to be the designer, you have to speak to your fabrics and where it comes from and how to build it. And then a lot of people that are asking me for this work, they're like, no. I don't want to speak on it because I don't know how to sew a damn thing.
Right.
So you know what? We'll play it this way. I'll write that story. And after I write that story, we'll build the site. After we build the site, we'll build the event, we'll build the party. And then within about 6 months time, you'll be in every paper, all the press, with the event, with the free champagne, no tickets. Just a nice night because we'll have the alcohol, everything prepared for you. Mm-hmm. This is what I've been able to do to others. And you're like...
Right, you can build a 360 package around.
Absolutely.
But
why can I ever do it for myself?
Right.
It's because she looks the way she looks. That's why I'm able to understand where I live and be like, if I can't do it for myself, I can eat and do it for others because the system was built for them. And that's okay. And when I say that's okay, it's because you have to be okay if you look like me. You just have to until it's acknowledgement that there's something happening. And only during June 2020, only during this time of the George Floyds and all the violence and all the police and all the things that we all had to look at each other and be like, well, this doesn't happen in Canada. I mean, that's only their problem. And then it's just kind of like everyone said, no, this is actually not just their problem. It's our problem. Canada had to look inside itself and just admit to these things. And when you finally admit to this, then you can actually solve a problem. Because if you can't admit to the problem, then we're not on the same page. And when Canada said, whoops, guys, whoops, I'm like, this is a good opportunity to not put fire on people or to not start pointing fingers and to lighting fires. I'm like, this is an opportunity for me not only to educate, but at the same time put certain people on that should have deserved to be on a long time ago and that were appropriated, brands that were taken from and appropriated and then left behind. Kind of like a pat on the head and using the excuses of, well, maybe you weren't just as polished as this person.
Right.
And
basically sort of a system that takes inspiration from places, but doesn't necessarily mean that the entity inspiring the system is the one that gets put on center stage.
And at one point, they never had to. It was plausible deniability. It was kind of like, you guys don't really exist. Like I had George, what's the problem? Because there's only about 10 black designers that I know. Like how many really are you? How developed really are you guys to say that you guys really have a problem? And I'm like, God damn. And that's why I started Black Designers
of Canada.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I need proof. Again, proof.
Proof, yeah.
So here I am doing all these crazy things, but still you're asking me for proof. So I'm just like, okay, it's not enough that I mention XYZ designers. You want proof? If finally, like I couldn't have done this 3 years ago.
No.
Because if I did it 3 years ago, well, there was no admission. There was no saying, you know what? There was no Trudeau saying, I'm sorry. Like as a representative of this country, I have to say out loud that we are really bad. And we've been really bad at the building of this country all the way through. And then to add insult to injuries, the kids bury the children, the extra on top. Like, we already knew the history, but then there was histories on top of histories that people were starting to really dig for and just really find, no fucking pun intended. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
But to really understand the evil. Yeah. So with that, it's kind of like everybody start to say, hey, well, boy, what about me? Because there's some evil done to me. Or da-da-da-da-da. So then Canada has a backlog list of, oh man, we have to catch up to this. I'm just one who is just like humbly, like, here is my curve of my path of how I went through a system that didn't recognize didn't acknowledge me, but yet the community always did. She was always I had people always in my corner, hey, doing what they could do. Yeah. She couldn't take me and say, you know what, no, take this brand and put them, da-da-da. Yeah. Like, everyone is just trying to do their thing, but it's kind of like it was the system that had a problem.
She's not part of the system that gets you across that chasm.
Absolutely. And that's what we're talking about, getting that across there, because I'm like, I was deserving of from the beginning. Why? Because I was already established in a place like Athlete's World, volume at 21 years old, when nobody was doing that. Absolutely. Because I was on the ground floor of the movement of fashion.
Now,
in a city.
As these generations are overturning, the trajectory is in a positive direction.
Absolutely, sure.
Which is phenomenal. So I think that the stars are really going to align, and the chasm will be crossed.
They are, simply because whether you came to the table kicking and screaming, or from the kindness of your heart, you had to come to the table. We're talking about corporations. We're talking about bloggers. We're talking about just everybody in the industry system had to look and say, let me scroll through my timeline. Am I that bad? And then I've never interviewed a person of color in my life. I've never photographed, or I've never carried in my store, or I've never All you have to do is just scroll on your own to understand, maybe they're talking about me, but I can make a difference, because to be honest, inclusion will just make you more money. So if it's not by the kindness of your heart, at least the bottom line, get on the bottom line boat, man. Hey, it doesn't. I don't care how it comes.
Right.
I don't have the choice. I'm just like, make it happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
like,
make it happen.
Get us to a lineup. No charity. Don't need it. I never needed charity. That's one thing I never needed. I just needed to race against, or I needed to just put me in the startup line with everybody else. And that's always been the problem.
Yeah, get me in the startup line.
Get me in a startup line, because all these other people are here, and most of these people, I would call them my sons, but they were able to see my trajectory and my path, copy it, get really good at it, leave me here watching over the fence, and then them just doing laps back and forth. And I've always been like, dude, hey, I just like, let me line up, win or lose. Let me
have a fair shot.
Let me have the fair shot, right?
Yes. And also, you really need the values of the system to start to reflect your values.
Absolutely.
Too. Because for a long period of time, at least, you've had to wait a couple generations to, like in recent generations, where the system, it's constructed and it has a certain set of values. Yeah. And for those values to turn over and start reflecting the values of a full spectrum, let's just say, of people, has taken a tremendous amount of...
Well, check this out.
What feels like a tremendous amount of time. But fortunately, it's, happened in a couple generations.
Check this out. So, like what COVID did to technology?
Yes.
It's the fear of being canceled is doing to what's happening now. And again, I'm not on the whole canceled thing. I'm on the give a chance for those corporations or those people to digest. Hey, it's a lot. You wake up one morning, you're fine. The world is fine. Hey, I give my likeness. I love my likeness. I give opportunity to my likeness. There's no really problem. Hey, I have a black friend somewhere. It's all good. And then one day, everything changes. BLM, da-da-da-da. And all of a sudden, you have to learn a whole bunch of shit that you never knew in like 3 days, because, these young kids are like, they're targeting and pointing their fingers like kind of a spin the bottle, and who's it going to land on?
Yeah.
All these corporations are like, oh shit. we have to pivot and change tomorrow. That what happens then? A lot of mistakes happen.
Yeah.
A lot of things is uncomfortable, but
especially to older people.
Especially to older people that, had all the time in the world to take their time and change when...
Or not change.
Or not change. Mm-hmm. Or not change. And so kind of like technology in COVID, you had no fucking choice to just flip and change. You're like, the world just flipped upside down. Like IKEA was like one of the worst transitioner of the things, because they're just like, how do we do this now? Mm-hmm. It's just got everything ended up being late. There's lineups, the things, deliveries. It was a complete mindfuck.
Yeah.
They're better now because they've had to
They had to adapt.
They had to adapt. And they had to pivot. They had to do all these things.
Yeah. Look, it's a microcosm of an example, and it's much smaller. But do you know any architects that never adopted CAD, computer-aided design? Okay. I've met people, they're architects, they didn't adopt computer-aided design.
Absolutely.
Or recording engineers
Absolutely.
that were stuck with their analog tape. They never got on Pro Tools. They never got it. And look, fortunately, they die. Yeah. They do die. Okay. There's nobody I've ever seen weather that onslaught of new technology and a new structure.
Absolutely.
And last. So it's
innovate or
quite
die.
Innovate or die. And it's just kind of like, I'll leave it to that brand or that store to hey, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt, but it's just kind of like, I don't need to come with pitchforks or light your shit on fire. You're going to light your shit on fire to yourself.
Right.
And it's just kind of like, you'll be surprised when somebody wants diversity, and you don't have to look like me to want diversity. It's just kind of like, you've been to a store a million times. It's always the same shit. And believe it or not, adding so much different, looks and views and design, just different things, you'll make more money.
Yeah, looks, views, body types, everything.
Oh, body types. That's these things are just a lot of new ideas. These corporations and to these brands and to these businesses, even the boutiques. Listen, and again, I like having this conversation, especially with you in the room, because she's been through the arc. She's been able to watch the arc and to see the other perspective, because she would have never known how I felt about this arc, because I've never been the one to be like, every time she met me, this.
I've never known you to be like that.
Never, right?
I'm glad to have this conversation.
Yeah. Absolutely, because she's always seen me, and it's just kind of like love. Mm-hmm. Hey, man, do. And still, Chad, Matt, we had the most crazy events, crazy parties. I remember, TIFF, we used to have these 3-day events. We used to do these crazy things, and part of it was, we are here too. We're screaming as loud as we can that not only are we worthy of, we're deserving of, and we're going to do this until maybe the cows, things in the world just flip, which at the time we're like, it's never going to happen. Yeah. But then it took a COVID. It took a tsunami of things.
It was a decade later.
A tsunami of things.
Took the internet.
Yeah,
took the internet. Absolutely. Internet, George Floyd, COVID, all these things to happen for this flash to just happen. And all of a sudden, everyone's talking about inclusion. Everyone's talking about these things. You're going to say, well, George, that's cool. We see you all over the place, and tokenism and performative stuff. And to them, I say, well, yeah. Yeah, duh. This company, for all of my life and doing all these things and all these crazy things, double against my colleagues. For every 3 things that I've done, my colleague on this side does 1 and off to the rocket.
Right.
So it's kind of like, duh. But I say at the same time, the coolest thing about, even if it looks performative, the minute they witness excellence and they witness these things that we do, like the back of our heads, because we've had to work twice as hard to get it and to do it, they're like, Jesus, and it hits them saying, man, fuck, we fucked up, because we could have excelled and our bottom line could have been risen. The 20 years of ignorance, we could have been billionaires and so on and so forth. And even if they became millionaires, whatever, because they're billionaires, it doesn't matter. Now, that's why I'm like, to every person who gets an opportunity now post June 2020, I say it's kind of like, take it and show them why and change their minds there, because it's kind of like, you will change their minds when you're sitting there at that job. Because I know some opportunities I've gotten directly that it was just like, hey, George, how's it going?
Right.
We love your work. I'm like, what? Is this how it feels?
I can't imagine.
Casey, is this how it feels? damn, that's really good. Like, I'm not getting 2,500. I'm getting 30,000, 40,000 for these things that all my friends have been getting forever. I see this, and taking it, but then it's kind of like working overtime, delivering on I remember, like, whatever campaign I'm on, it's kind of like, read these lines. Okay, are you sure you're good? And nailing it, just because I've always been ready.
Because you had to work harder. And
Absolutely.
Consistently work harder just to get the same opportunity.
Absolutely.
If you even got the same opportunity.
Absolutely. It's kind of like, I've always said that I've always had a tuxedo pressed and ready on the shelf. I was just never invited to the party. So when you're invited to the party, like, it's already there. The haircut,
you're like, I've been ready for this.
I've been ready for this. So of course you're going to have an influx of excellence, like a barrage coming towards, and a lot of companies just picking up what they can just to kind of meet the moment, but at the same time realizing, holy shit. And then that's why you've seen the boom in models, the boom in this and because the models are hot. The models are dope.
And they're ready.
And they're ready.
And they've worked hard.
And then you mix in some Asian, some white, some this, and you're like, this is beautiful. Like, why did we wait so long? Well, and then now the change. So voting came in blood. So it's ugly right now, right? It looks ugly. Like, there's a lot of, like, you scroll down somebody's, it's kind of like I don't do it anymore because, like,
well, the whole process it's messy.
It's messy.
It's not like you're getting, if you look at the history of the world, the whole process is messy. It's not a freaking straight A to B.
Absolutely. So we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there.
Yeah,
eventually.
I agree.
But
it's definitely messy work.
It's messy. Like, some brands, like go to June 2020 on any of these brands, these big brands, right? And then scroll underneath.
Before
it's a different world.
And after.
It's a different world. And then do a thing and a color. Black.
Yeah.
Every brand.
Well, it aligned with the profit motive in our country.
But what I'm saying is
and value motive. There's values there too that shifted.
Absolutely.
But profit
it's not from the bottom of
too.
their hearts, the kindness of the and again, we don't care. I'm here to say, as a representative of the black people, we don't care. Just give us the opportunity. We'll show you the rest. The excellence will come. Will be.
It's like
delivered.
that proof that you were talking about.
Yes.
Give me the opportunity, and I'll show you.
Well, another thing, it's not like you've been conditioned, by getting pats on the back for mediocre work for a bunch of years. It's like you've been delivering above the bar.
No, absolutely.
And
absolutely.
not necessarily getting the pat.
Absolutely. Again, Chad Quarterly, this is how, I'm not sure how anybody else gets into magazine making, but when you have two black people coming into magazine making, knowing that you're the only ones that look like what you do doing a luxury lifestyle publication, here's our process. We grab the best magazines in the world. We look at their paper stock. If it's 7 point for them, we went 14 point. Right. If they went 70 pound paper stock on the inside, we went 100 pound.
It was a nice magazine.
I bet it was real plush.
You couldn't throw it out, right?
No, that's why I still have it. I still have it.
It was real plush.
It was heavy.
It was heavy and
felt nice.
You know what? Check this out. You know what? Let's just go even further. Let's just round the corners. For just fucking shits and giggles. We go to printing houses and they're like, what the fuck? And like, no, we can't do that. And we're like, well, we need, and we had to find the printers to be able to round the edges. So after it was cut, they rounded the edges and they're like, why do you need this? And I'm like, I couldn't at the time say, well, we're black. We need to do the extra. Right. We just said, we're like, we just need this just so when you saw it, like it was undeniably, this is beautiful.
Art. It was a piece of art.
Absolutely. And I have every copy. These are things that
I'd love to see one.
We had to do it. Mm-hmm. We had to do it. We love to do it.
Yeah.
And I loved fashion and I love all these things, but we had to do it. And guess what? We never got acknowledged for it. Like, could you understand? I'm on my wiki and I added Chad Corley to wiki and they told us to remove it because there was not enough notability.
Yeah, notoriety
for that. 10 years it ran. And we had like 30 issues, paper issues, and then we went for another time.
And they're pricey to produce,
Oh,
too,
man, listen.
Compared to a normal magazine,
listen,
from the sounds of it.
And the reason why they couldn't find means of notability is because Chad and I never got interviewed. We never got there was never articles on us saying,
I mean, I probably have a blog post.
Yeah. Hey, but thanks. You know what I mean? Maybe we can bring that back up so I can tag that to Wiki so then they'll let me fucking put it like that's
you didn't get him across the camera.
No.
Damn you. I'm sorry.
Damn you.
I thought you'd be able to.
All I needed was one article. Yeah. You know? And that's the funny thing. It's just kind of like we were never covered as the dynamic dude who's doing this thing.
Yeah, you weren't featured like Toronto, like, you know, the magazines in the city weren't featuring you guys the way that you would be now.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And
like what you're saying, basically, the machine doesn't really get behind you.
No.
Like that's sort of like this sort of, it's a bit of a vaporware machine in a lot of respects.
Yeah. And that is why at this time it was good to start Black Designers of Canada, but it was good to write a document. Mm-hmm. It's an autobiography, but it's a picture. It's picture and words because the pictures are the proof. Yeah. So when I'm talking about being marginalized, it's kind of like when you see the photography, you see the level that we were doing 20 years ago, you're like mind blown. Because you're like, you can't distinguish if this was made now or was made before because we were so innovative because we were already taking those trips into the States to find out months before the curb would come.
Yeah.
Right? Because the trade shows, they're always 6 months ahead. Right? And making sure that, you know, you go there, stores would pick up for the next season.
Yeah.
And brands would be innovative and you'd be so far ahead if you went down there first. We would do that all the time and then come back here. And then I did everything you could possibly imagine to secure wealth, to secure life, to secure these things, survival. I've come from that. So it's kind of like when you'd come back and it's just kind of like still nothing. But then you look over, not jealous or anything, because you already knew where you were, but you look at a counterpart and it would just have a smidgen of that. And then off to the races. And I'm just like, but I would still continue.
Yeah.
I wouldn't, you know what I mean? I wouldn't bat an eye like, because I'm like, you're talking to yourself because they're not going to acknowledge what the hell is coming out of your mouth. Mm-hmm. And only when Canada acknowledged, I said Black Designers of Canada, guess what? Because there's more than 10 of us. Watch, you'll see.
Yeah.
And then now on the site, there's 250 of us plus. And,
amazing.
And with that, it's kind of fantastic. Like 5% are athleisure. When before this list, it was like, well, there's only 10 of you guys and 9 of you guys do athleisure. And that's why you're not in my store. That's why. I'm not racist, George. I'm not racist. But that's why, because there's only 10 and 9, and I tried to look, and everyone has jogging pants because you guys are not really fashion anything, and you guys don't really do runway. And I'm sorry because, like, you know, because here's some things that what I would carry in my store, and I'm like, you see people's influences in their store. So I'm not in your store. I'm in your store, though. The music that's playing.
Right.
The appropriation of every style that is taken from, but yet I cannot feel comfortable shopping in a store and or I'm not carried there because of the stigma of, well, you're Black and who you're going to bring to the store. I had an apology. I had a girl after I launched Black Designers of Canada.
When did you launch that?
I launched it in June 3rd. Well, I launched the idea on June 3rd. I think it was after the black card. You remember these black cards?
Yeah, yeah. Everyone had the black square on their profile in June 2020.
Blackout Tuesday. So I think that was the 2nd or the 3rd, one of those days, but the day after. And I wrote, if you feel the way I feel. I'm like, no loan, no this, no press, no whatever. I gotta look at my phone.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I on Black Designers of Canada, the first post ever was basically like, the internet's a little slow, but whatever. Like, I just wrote a couple of thoughts. Mm-hmm. And if you feel like this, then nominate somebody that you know or nominate yourself.
Okay.
And a flood of designers came out of the woodworks. And then it continued. After 2 weeks, I had like 120, 130. And then we actually launched with like 130 because I also cleaned it as well. I also cleaned it up because obviously the baker's like, yeah, well, me too. And I'm like, well, you're not a designer. Like, I have to keep a design. Keep it design orientated because
starts to get watered down.
Absolutely. And then they would be like, well, see, I told you, George, there's only 10 of you, because the rest of the people on your site are bakers, woodworkers.
You had to keep it like specific for that.
I'm like, absolutely.
Not that you can't make all kinds of different organizations here.
You know what I mean? Like there are different sites that highlight, like black owned, like, if it's black owned, anything goes.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm like, I'm a designer. This is how I feel in my career. And I'm like, I know that specifically that there's designers like me, either interior design, software design, graphic design, fashion design, that feel like if you feel this way, nominate yourself. Let's get this going, to get a ledger, to get a count of us.
Yeah.
Because the minute there's a count of us, and listen, I'll tell you right now, breaking news, I fucking broke fashion. I broke it and I heard it. And the reason why I heard it is because if you could imagine, fashion just operated willy-nilly like there was nothing wrong. Right? And I know she's laughing because and I'm speaking to her especially because it's kind of like she was in the
she
paint
was in the
with
thick
me.
of it. Yeah.
So she understood, and everybody is kind of like, there was nothing wrong. Could you imagine before June 2020, like if we're talking about like scrolling on somebody's Instagram, could you imagine that was my real life, knowing that, not having to see what it would look like with inclusion? I didn't need that. But if you look, there's a proof of it. But before that time, hey, there was nothing wrong. Hey, there's nothing wrong.
Yeah, it's crazy to think
about
how
that
much.
way. Think about
it that way and see how much nothing changed for so long. Nothing changed for so long. And then it was like,
yeah, man,
everything changed.
Everything changed. And so was I wrong? Absolutely not. Did people apologize to me left and right? There were some people, like, I was in their emails years ago. Hey, man, I'm fucking just built the Empire State Building. Anything? Sorry, George. Well, maybe not. Like, I built a shoe out of gold. Anything? Like, I would always come with more than enough.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say the names. I'll maybe off top thing. And you'll be like, oh, really? Oh, him, her, and her. But I've gotten more apologies than you could ever imagine in your life from entities that you love. Straight apologies. Straight, we're going to do better. Oh my God, I didn't even know, and it was him. I got a lot of
finger pointing at someone else. It wasn't me, but on behalf of them, I'll apologize. On behalf of,
and they're fired.
He doesn't work here anymore, but I just like to say we're sorry
because I was the wrong guy to catch the football and run something like Black Designers of Canada. Because when they found out that, hey, somebody's talking about who's talking about all these new topics that we just can't handle right now, and it's Sully. Oh shit. Because he knows where all the bones are buried.
Yeah.
He made a magazine that, hey, we might have not been included everywhere, but I know that you're at our event. All 1,000 people of you were all there to be able to witness something and have the free alcohol in the good time, but never advancing us. And these are things that we knew, but we're like, knowing where the bones are buried was the most important thing, and that's why I know that we broke fashion. Because this is what happened. Could you imagine before Black Designers of Canada, plausible deniability was like, as long as the word is that there's only 10 of them, we could never have to do anything to help because there's nothing wrong. I come in and say, hey, I'm going to prove to you that there's something wrong. And there's a lot, I'm not going to mention any names, but there was like some people who said, I love what you're doing, but there's no way.
I'm not getting involved.
No. There's like, I love what you're doing, but like, Sully, you won't be able to raise that. You won't be able to raise a number. There's no way. And I'm like, yo, we'll see.
Raise a number meaning?
Raise a number of designers. Like, there's no designers.
Yeah.
Like
right. You're not out there.
You've just started something because remember, I didn't make the site the next day.
Right.
Like, I made this, like, I put out the word and said, I'm going to do this thing and I need your help. I know you guys are out there, and if you feel the way I do, nominate yourself, nominate somebody else. And during that time, I'm getting now press. Because this is what press was doing. Press is like, I put this thing out there, and like everybody's like coming to my door because a lot of press never covered me before. And they're coming to me doing part, I have to cover this guy. Because he's a wrong guy. Because he's a guy. If he knows, like, he can pinpoint the person at CP24 or at an event or ding, that I've either looked at him in his eyes, I looked at him in his eyes. There's too many people that was just like, God damn it, Sully. So if there was a problem about inclusion, about black in the industry, and this guy caught the football because he's always been around, but he's never been lifted past a glass ceiling. So if this guy now, he could look into all our eyes and be like, I know where you were on September and 10 years ago. I remember where you were. You know what I mean? You were velvet roping, blocking me off. Remember that night at that club? You know what I mean? It was a velvet rope, and I had the credentials, but you didn't want to let me in. So it was that type of feel. And so the press came to be like, okay. So he has all the limelight right now. Black is hot. George is the quote unquote fucking spokesman, by de facto fucking spokesman for all the blacks all of a sudden. Right. All of a sudden. I'm the spokesman for everybody. And they're like, we're going to just cover it because to be safe. Because there's pitchforks for everybody.
Yeah.
People were going to station, podcasting.
Look, they want their proof.
Absolutely. Yeah. Everybody was looking for blood. And then so they're like, we're going to cover him. But then there was always a question of like, could you raise the number though? It's like, like now the spotlight's on you, almost kind of like to trip me up to be like, we're going to keep this going.
Yeah, we'll cover you.
How many numbers you have now?
We'll cover the 20 people you'll pull together.
They wanted to hang me. No, again, erase that part.
No problem.
You know what I mean? No pun intended. They wanted to trap me into a situation where they can come back and say, see, you didn't break fashion because there was never a fucking problem.
Yeah.
There was never a problem, and you're just a fucking disruptor, and you just want to create a thing for black people in the situation where it's hype for black and hype. And then 100, and then 150, then 175, then 100 and shit. And then they start doing, all of a sudden, the press, because I got everything. The press came in, before the site launch, we had 150 press hits. We called it a tour now because every 3 days, like I was Globe and Mail like 6 times. The Toronto Star I was like 5 times. Different. I remember being the Toronto Star, 2 major articles in the same issue.
Yeah,
it was great. It was fucking insane. It was insane, and they were all picking it up. This is what they had to do, respectfully. But there was a question of, will they be able to raise? Like, will he be able to do this whole sanctum or this whole kind of like unicorns of inclusion with all the so-called black designers?
Yeah.
And holy shit, like when we launched on August 8th, 2020, and the way it looked.
Yeah, it's beautiful looking site. It's very clean,
sexy, and just easy to go through.
Yeah.
All sectioned off.
Also, that is a pretty quick turnaround from June to August to launch a whole new site and a whole new thing. So, way to whip it together.
But check this out.
You've done it before.
But see, these are the onions that start to peel because my confidence from day one, it's like, where's he getting the confidence from? We don't know this guy so well.
Right.
The guy, magazines, graphic designs, videography.
Yeah, it's not my first rodeo.
You got them all in your tool belt.
All in the tool belt. So I'm absolutely. I have all these things that I could apply and get it done without any help, actually.
Right.
I'm like, I could promise this and deliver it. That's where my confidence came from. Because I'm like, could you imagine? I'm like,
You're like, actually, I can build this site over the weekend, so see you Monday.
Absolutely.
And design the logo and do all the things.
Like one of the things I loved about that video that you did where you built the shoe is it's not like you're just there building a shoe and like presenting the shoe. It's like you're literally starting from the ground floor, with paper, and you end publishing the Shopify, okay?
It's sold in a day.
Yeah, phenomenal. And then at the end, in the credits, you purposely put each discipline. Okay, which was awesome.
See, okay, you won't catch that.
Yeah, no, I like that. Absolutely, I liked that a lot. And really cool that your father's a jewelry designer too.
Yeah, man, absolutely.
My grandfather was in the jewelry business.
That's what's up.
And it's intricate little work.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
I sometimes on YouTube I'll watch guys build like
he had the little
stuff.
Crucibles things. He had like the table setups, all the things. And
but
just
a lot of your
build
when you build the shoe, you can see all that in your DNA. You know, which is phenomenal.
Absolutely. And they say if it's not on tape or it's not on video,
it doesn't exist.
It didn't happen.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like we are from you always had to come with proof.
Yeah.
You had to come with proof. Everything that you did, you had to just double it down to make sure that you're really the person that really did those things. Just because when you went into the interview, you had to make sure that, you know what, like you had to fight past your color. You have to fight past what you're seeing this and be like, this is what I do. And like, here's the proof of it, because to show that. And if anybody comes after me, then you're like, well, okay, well, he is black, but fuck, he brought a whole bunch of proof.
Yeah.
We weren't going to hire him, but fuck.
Right. Now they call it getting receipts.
Shoot, right.
You know, another thing is too.
Absolutely.
Like, you're somebody that is attracted to things that are classic.
Yeah, man.
Like
Absolutely.
a lot of, like,
Well
your
said.
designs.
Well said.
Like
true.
you really understand how to get the juice out of simplicity.
Yeah, man. Absolutely.
And like even in all your shoes and your accessories and,
For sure.
and everything that you do actually takes advantage of strong fundamental lines. You know?
Yeah, you got it.
And
you got it.
I see you as somebody through all these disciplines, as someone who understands the fundamentals and actually consciously exercises strong fundamentals.
Absolutely.
In all of those 4 or 5 main credits that you put at the end of that video, I see those strong fundamentals in each one, in your video editing, in your sketching, in whatever you're doing there. And it's wonderful because it really leads to an emotional connection and sophistication and an attachment to the product that doesn't happen if you don't understand and execute those things.
I appreciate
that.
So
I loved it.
I think,
and I'll tell you, and I would love to actually do a custom shoe.
Okay, well, sign you up. There's a list.
Beautiful.
No,
happy to get on the list. I'll tell you, I've got grievances about shoes. All right, I know I've got a lot of grievances about shoes. Okay, so I'd be down.
Like, you know what? Like, I think it's a beautiful thing, and it comes in. Again, it's just my background. It's a blessing and a curse, because it's kind of like, on one hand, you wish that you didn't have to go so hard to just show you how hard you are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? How worthy you are to, again, acknowledgement, not a fucking trophy. It's just, that's how low our bar has ever been. It's kind of like, we've just wanted acknowledgement. I'm like, the biggest gift, and I say this a million times, but the biggest gift to a person of color, to a designer of color, is just the gift of acknowledgement. Just to fucking that I exist in a room. That is a low. Isn't that not a fucking low bar?
Yeah,
it is a low bar.
Right?
But the thing is, what's nice is it's not like now you're acknowledged for a bunch of sloppy shit just because of the color of your skin.
Absolutely.
Okay, like you're getting, like, the acknowledgement is coming from more than just the color of your skin,
and that's
which is
cool.
really wonderful.
Absolutely, that's what I think is cool, because they're just looking at doing their homework and saying, "Holy shit!"
Yeah.
Okay, you know what I mean? Like, okay, because like, and that's why, to believe it or not, I just put up legacy brands on my website on the GeorgeSully.com. Legacy brands in the last maybe year.
I think that was smart to do.
Yeah, I think it's smart too.
Because I just realized that how much attention was coming on to me for Black Designers of Canada, and then, and it was more for the people like, fuck, well, House of Hyla is like 2 years old, Sully and Son's a year old, like, who the fuck is this guy saying, talking all this thing like he's been fucking,
around forever, but you got to show the proof that's like, no, here, this is what I did before that.
Absolutely. This is what I did before that. And those are going to expand. It's just, I was just so busy in a sense of, there was like so many moving parts on so many moving things, but I'm going to expand that. And that's based on the book, because the book is opening up really the chapters of saying proof and picture, and then what I'm saying. And it's just brilliant, because it's just not pictures. It's really the receipts. It really is.
Right.
And it's so dope to see that, because you're like, I read this, and that's crazy. And then you look at the picture to match it, and you're like, man, the guy doesn't look like he's like a day old. Same. Like, did he just fudge these pictures? Like,
I hope the book has pictures in it. I'm sure the book has pictures.
Oh yeah,
in
like,
it,
it's all it's both. It's like it's like a
That's
picture book,
love.
kind of. It's like a picture book, like an art book you go through.
Knowing the things that you make and seeing the Past magazine, that is going to be a beautiful book.
It's gonna be sexy, man. Like my style. You know how it's gonna be.
I'll have to reinforce my coffee table.
Yeah, right, absolutely. And That's the cool thing. But I didn't talk about that for years because before June 2020, it was almost embarrassing saying, how could you do so many things and not be recognized for so many things? And you never had an answer because you're the angry black guy in the room because nobody's believing you because nobody ever had to. Mm-hmm. So then when you're like, you couldn't come with grievances because nobody's listening. No, you can't.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it just ends up reflecting poorly on you in their eyes.
Absolutely.
Anyway, so you're caught. You're caught.
Absolutely. So it was a beautiful thing to be like, finally, this is a weapon, and it's like strength instead of some sort of a weakness, simply because not only can I talk about it, it's kind of like I've gotten too many apologies from too many high profile. And I'm fucking telling you, oh my God, you'd laugh your head off for the people who apologize saying, we fucked up and we would love to work with you.
Yeah, everyone's coming out of the woodwork now, I bet.
Everybody, and we always have the discussion. Like, yo, anybody who comes and wants to work, we just have a day. And it's cool. And let's work forward. And you know what? But like, you got me, but I have a list of motherfuckers that you need to deal with now.
Yeah.
I got a list of, and if you thought this was great, then here's a list. Because every opportunity that I've gotten, I've brought in others that are ready. Mm-hmm. Ready. Mm-hmm. Right? There's a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Being black is being black, but being black and being ready for the opportunity is very important as well. I can tell the difference. Yeah. And it's just kind of like, I'm not trying to embarrass us in any sense of the word. I'm trying to, if you're on Black Designers of Canada and you're new or you're not developed, then we're working on programs to get you there. Mm-hmm. But the people that are ready, there should be no excuses why they're not on your shelf. Mm-hmm. And I'm putting designers on shelves every day. And I'm negotiating and networking, doing these things behind closed doors. I have a brand. We'll leave it nameless because I want to give them the respect. I want you to buy their brand without having the push of poor brand, you know?
Right.
I like going from $5,000 accounts, boutiques. And you know, like the collecting the money, the hustle, the hustle, like you go into a small boutique store, you don't get paid for 6, like they
like forever,
just running around chasing people from boutiques to doing $100,000 POs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they were doing that only because they couldn't get buyers meetings, because to chase down a buyer in any major retailer was like finding a unicorn. And it's just never happened. And it's just purposely. And I know this. I know where the bones are buried. That's the fucking problem. Mm-hmm. I knew the buyers. I knew where they were. I was going to Magic 2. I'd be able to sense a buyer from Canada from a mile away because everybody's like, oh, that's buyer from this. Mm-hmm. That's so-and-so and so-and-so.
Yeah.
And doesn't matter how you met them, if you met them square, through an agency, through a this, like I've done it every way. So if you're a buyer, I'm like, I can't come to you and be like, hey, how are you doing? Are you a buyer? Here's my stuff out of my jacket. You know what I mean? Now that shit. But some would do it and they would pick it up, but they didn't look like me. Yeah. So there's that open door that you can do that if you looked a certain way. But if you didn't look a certain way, then you're like, how come you don't have an agency? And I'm being accosted on the street. Uh-huh. I can't believe this. Like, I'm afraid. Right. He came and he showed me his stuff. Like,
different set of rules. All of a sudden they throw out a different set of rules.
Different set of rules. And then you would do it through an agency, and then they would be like, well, I know that brand, and I just, you know what I mean? Almost kind of like, oh, shit, well, now they're doing it straight, but I still don't want it. But they didn't have to take it. So, again, if today, in today's time, you have to take it and you still don't want it, good. I don't give a shit how we get in there, how in your fucking store. We'll do the rest. We'll sell out and do what we do.
Yeah.
Whether from the kindness of your heart or not. So let's not get it twisted that I want it from a Puritan. Right. I want it from somebody who's just like, I don't give a shit.
Right.
If you were forced to buy me, I don't give a shit. Because in the end, I'm not going to hurt you. I'm only going to make you more money, but we have to just kind of force you into fucking eating the food. Mm-hmm. Like a baby, you put the pills in the gelatin or in the fucking in the Jello.
Yeah.
Whatever how you need it. I don't care. Mm-hmm. It's just the fact that it has to happen to those that are ready and for those that are worthy of. You have to give them that spot because, and again, that spot is just, the spot is just on the line, not fucking charity case spot. I don't need it. And the cool thing is now, and I can promise you this, I'm moving so fucking fast and furious on people that just had a gimmick, that just appropriated me and did one thing right, but were able to take off. I'm moving so fucking fast now at this point because the things that I have to offer, you just can't stop it. And it's so fast and fucking furious. So then I'm taking on everything because I've always been ready for so much already. I already got teams, already got people in fucking place. If I can't just rise to the occasion, but I'm having a fucking great time because could you imagine, George, how are you doing this so much? Or why is this happening so? Because I was doing it by myself, fucking like
with
this.
your hands tied, basically with your hands
like
tied.
this, and still doing it.
And also learning the lessons through, and now being able to do things
so
efficiently.
Can you imagine
like
me
you
just
picked
going
up
it's not your first rodeo. You know, you've been doing this a long time.
Can you imagine me with fucking hands? How I'm going to stunt on these people, these proverbial other artists and other people doing what I'm doing? Are you fucking kidding me? Like, and so here we are at a place where there's full control and it's top dollar. I've always known what so-and-so got paid for that installation or for that thing or for that day. I've always known the price. She's been benefiting a lot. She's the originator, you know. And I love her though. You know, I love her.
Us too.
I love her though. But the thing is that like I've always known the price, and now when I'm offered the price, I'm like, cool. You know what I mean? And then I just continue the motions, and it's just kind of like, you know, what they get from me is just kind of like shit. Like the eBay is just is an amazing deal, and eBay was just like, well, this makes sense because he fucking makes shoes.
Right.
We have all these other fucking influencers who fucking God knows.
Yeah, true.
And well, and this guy can make a shoe in the back of his fucking head. Maybe we should have him as a leader of some sort to do some sort of thing.
To do something?
In the sneaker department that they're trying to fucking... It just... All the making sense is making sense. And everybody who's supposed to be coming together to do the right thing is here just doing the right fucking thing because... Right. So the thing that is always... that always hurt the black community or black creatives is the thing of press and the thing of being acknowledged in that sense, especially press, and especially that, because it's not for ego's sake. It's for the system, because when you go to a buyer, the buyer says, we would have loved to have you, but you know what, right now, we're just looking for brands that are more known, with more press and more thing. That's funny, because we're shut out of the press. So then it's a easy way for them to shut us out even more, saying that if you had this, we'd get you in there. But they know that their friends are running that. And so it's a cycle of death for black designers. And and the reason why I know the bones are buried is because I have been the person to be the leader sitting there at a thing being told this thing countless times.
Right. You've been good. You get the runaround. That's a classic runaround.
It's a classic runaround that you can never fix.
You can't fix it.
Because press will never come for you. They're not coming for you because they know where the golden goose is. That kid who created the one thing and they look beautiful and they fit the narrative of the moment of the thing of the bit. Oh, fashion week. Fashion, all that shit. Have I been in Fashion Week? Of course. Have I fucking sat front row? Of course. All these things, but I've never been included in the thing.
But were you the one interviewed in the, interviewed as a designer?
Absolutely not.
No.
Absolutely. And
maybe a street style.
Absolutely. But see, that's the thing. It's straight up. Yeah. Straight up. You know
I'm like, this is factual.
Yeah, in fact, this is factual shit. And so these are the things that we can't get away from, because I know where the bones are buried and I know the stories. Any genre or pocket that you can talk about the fashion industry, I could tell you a story about it and be like, oh, that's unfortunate. But I've been in that, and then that's why being a representative of anything at this time now, there's so many that I had to get apologetic. The call's like, fuck, because I don't want him to talk in my, I don't want him to repeat my story.
Right.
I'm just fixing myself. You know what I mean? I'm being a better person. So Sully, please, I just want to be a better person. So I want to stay out of your narrative. Right. Okay, fine. $50,000 will be.
I
take checks.
I take checks. Well, I mean,
walk me through that, and then what did that design turn into in terms of the industry picked that up and
well, are we talking about the camera sheet? The camera sheet.
Your first induction into the Bata shoe.
Yes. Okay. So the camera sheet collaboration. Now,
when was that? Is this 10 years ago? About
now, I guess.
I'd have to take down the timeline,
but that was huge for us because Karam was already a huge industrial designer worldwide. I mean, like, you know what I mean? Like, he was already huge, and I met him through some media junket where they invited, and see, some people have done things right, where they're like, okay, well, he's a sneaker, like, get this guy into this thing to go to this thing.
And you were Sully Wong at the time, building Sully Wong at the time.
Absolutely, absolutely. So get this guy to this thing, and then so it was in Kingston. So they invited they had a car, a limousine, and then we drove to Kingston for this launch of this school building. If you look at how that happened, it's kind of like I had to be put in a place, in a position. But the things that when I was put in that place of position, I already had things to back me up.
Yeah, you were ready.
I should have been put in all the fucking positions at all times because I was always ready for the moment. So it's kind of like if I'm making $1 million now, I should have been fucking a billionaire by fucking now. Yeah. And that's the thing because I don't like to talk fucking numbers, but to make the point, between June 2020 and today, $1.2 million worth of gross income. A finger snap.
Right.
You're
doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And
fuck me. Yeah. God damn it. Sorry, can we swear on this?
Yeah, you can swear. Yeah, you're doing the same thing.
Jesus fucking Christ. And that's not a lot of money. We know it's not a lot of money now.
Yeah.
It fuck before it was. And it's 2 years, not 1 year. Mm-hmm. It's that span. And I'm just catching up, and I'm catching up fast. It's just to say, I'm not doing anything fucking different. So that pisses. I was in jail for 20 years. That means I was in jail for fucking a crime I never committed.
Yeah.
And then I just got pulled out of jail. Say sorry. Here's a little bit of penance for fucking keeping you locked, keeping your monster locked in. I shouldn't use a monster to Johnny Depp. I'm like,
no. But keeping it, but you were. It was like you were like in a cage and you've been set free.
Right. And then so.
Well,
it's not
your value is now sort of in service / acceptable / desired by the system.
Right.
Whereas it wasn't.
Right. Absolutely. Period.
And you haven't. It's not like you took a course and came out with new material.
Right.
Yeah.
And so back to the Karam. So you could imagine that I was ready to impress somebody like that at that level.
Yeah.
He did hey man.
Right.
He saw that.
Right.
Because he's a worldly, he sees things.
He can tell. Because he sees amateurs. He can recognize.
Right? So then we get down to business and could you imagine the opportunities I would have had if everybody just looked at it that way and just really dug in and said, you know what? But he did. And of course.
So walk me through the design process of that. Was that design something you already had?
We already had it in another shoe. We already had it in another shoe that we were designing, right?
Okay.
And
that's an original design.
It's an original design, but the Desert Boot is not an original from us. Like the Desert Boot is a classic Aussie, but then we go from Aussie, but then you go indigenous. Really, if you like anything else, appropriated by everybody else.
Yeah.
Fucking Aussies, but the indigenous, goddammit. It's like the moccasin, Desert Boot styling, and then it kind of morphed into a thing. But the Australians really took the Desert Boot into another level in the 80s. And
Cool. So it's a very simple, timeless type of
I've always
design.
Been on the simple and timeless because it just transcends all the trends. Mm-hmm. That means you can make money forever. And it's just kind of like, that's the styling. Like what you see me design in the past, it's always relevant.
Yeah.
It's always relevant, right? And we took his design and we stuck it on this boot, and then we just knew that's all that would have to happen. And then exactly what happened. So one opportunity I get, because somebody just recognized who the fuck I am. Right. And then my only one effort, we get into the Bata Shoe Museum. Fuck, help this guy out, man. Does he need any more?
Where did that shoe sell? How many of those did you produce?
Man. Okay, well, at the time, we were in a lot of boutiques and a lot of stores. Like, we were doing a lot. We weren't doing... It never got to Hudson's Bays or any of that stuff. It was all boutiques at the time, in the States and in Canada. We were...
Today, it would have.
Today, it would have.
Like,
we don't do
the
boutiques
machine
anymore.
Didn't work that way then, I guess.
It works. It worked completely different.
Yeah.
Yes.
It worked completely different. And today...
So that's the equivalent of a shoe that would have been basically everywhere today.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. with the marketing, the whole thing, and it's him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And now I'm accepted. So together, like, the right people saw it and said, "Oh, this is the thing. Can I get 300 of those, 400 of that, sizes 6 of that, 500, 5,000 units? I can deliver it in a finger snap. This is what I do. I do volume.
Yeah.
If you want me to. Now, there's nobody doing that on that level, and
just
and I'm not flexing. I'm
no,
it's
fucking
facts.
Reality.
Yeah,
facts.
Find me somebody.
The fact that you have to bring up the word cobbler, you know.
Jesus, man,
like,
and that's all. I mean, fuck, that's all I'm saying. I'm not like I'm really like I want a friend.
Yeah.
That I can talk to and say, you too, like your shoe run fucking came late, dude, that.
Yeah.
I'd love to have that fucking chat. A lot of designers, fashion designers get to chat with each other. I'm by my fucking self. But so again, there's so many, that guy got fucked. When you think about it, because it's kind of like, if I'm the only one, you want to lift that only one. If you only have the one and he's at that caliber, you want to lift him up, right? Mm-hmm. So only after this time, after June 2020, are they saying, not only finding me, but then lifting me up and saying, well, fuck, he's a treasure of, God damn it.
You are a treasure.
Fuck, God. Is this also funny? It's funny. It's
from the runaround to a treasure.
Yeah,
George Sully, a treasure. Canadian treasure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They just fucking, they just took the beginning and they just changed the words.
Yeah.
George Sully.
I don't know if you want to use that as the title. From a runaround to a treasure, but
you know what I mean? Like, that's a good. It's definitely been a journey, and respect to those. Like, I've been saying thank you to those that have had me for the time when, at a point when, and only if you look back at it now, it's kind of like shit. It's kind of like I didn't even have to help this guy. I could have been like everybody else and just been like, he's so dope that I want to do the opposite and bury him. Because it was that a lot. It was kind of like, well, fuck, if we expose this guy, then he's going to expose a lot of our faults and expose that, like, he's too knowledgeable at these things that we're half as good as, but we're controlling the narrative and the game and the retail space and everything else. So it was more bury this guy than fucking lift this guy. And it's just kind of like the total opposite. So I've been going back to not
victim of your own circumstances.
Fucking absolutely. And
in that respect.
And now it's kind of like a lot of people, I'm like, yo, thank you. Because I mean, when you gave me that opportunity, you might have thought you were just fucking, I never looked at it that way. But I have to remind you that you at the time were in a place and in a space that you not only didn't have to, it's kind of like you should have been part of the other narrative of blocking me. You should have been part of the gatekeeper community to block me. Like, that would have been, if you would have got a call from a friend saying, oh yeah, I got George. No. Like, it would have been that. And again, apologies. I can promise you that they're in the DMs, they're in the emails, they're everywhere trying to be like, please, I'm trying. Don't come to my door. Like, put an X, like, like in the Bible.
Put the lamb's blood. Everybody's got the lamb's blood on my door.
So the ghosts don't come and fucking take my child.
I bet it's easy now to recognize the people who who kind of like, we're like, yeah, man, like, let's do this. It's probably really easy for you to recognize those people.
It really is. It really is. There wasn't the most, but there is, and they're there. And I give that, I find them and I say, like, I give them their flowers, because I'm just like, everything is, the ship, I get like, has been righted in a sense. So then now it's going this way, so that now change can continue, because it's not everything's fucking fixed. Far from that, right?
Yeah.
But it's just the ship has been written, and like, I know my numbers by next year, and by thing, it's just going back to what it's supposed to be on a fucking monster scale that should have always been. I'm more wiser. I'm fucking better at it. I'm still myself. I'm fucking humble as shit and willing to work with anybody who wants to work with a black person. Anybody want to take the chance? Take the chance. You know what I mean? Like, it's a funny beast. It's a funny beast, and it's just kind of like, yeah. So yeah.
Well, it's been a pleasure to have you on Cast of Creators.
Yeah, this has been, I've known you for a long time, but I haven't known you this well.
Yeah,
and like, true. I have Yeah, you've said so many great things that I know I can listen to the podcast episode, but I needed to write them down in the moment because it was just that good. Yeah.
Amazing. I appreciate it. I really do. And shots out to, again, those who looked the right way at a time when they didn't have to, at a time when it wasn't cool, or it wouldn't have given them any extra to do so. And speaking this in these times now, it sounds crazy, but it's just kind of, this is the new veil that we get to talk about that nobody ever wants to talk about. Yeah. About these uncomfortable things that have been happening all the whole time, and not being truthful to a lot of people's truths.
Yeah.
Right.
And if you have the next person that you have, and if you have an Indigenous person on this fucking on this podcast, get ready.
Yeah, get ready.
Fuck their stories. There's stories and there's things, and it's just kind of like, I'm just glad it's part of a narrative, because the Black Lives Matter movement, it helped everybody. It helped everybody, because even the story of the Indigenous, it's always been before anybody.
It's not a new story.
It's not a new story. It's not even after the it's the story. It is the story. Yeah. So without Black Lives Matter, to just fucking break this silence, everybody's been benefiting from, in a sense of, let's look into that, and let's look into that, and people are curious. And it's kind of like, people should have always been. Yeah. But this has just been an extra amber of fire or kindle of just to bring shit up forevermore, it not being okay to be silent on anything. And it's just kind of like, I'll end on this. I like to say the most honorable thing, or respectful thing, or courageous thing that you can do for a person of color is speak on their behalf when they're not in the room. It's when they're not in the room, which is the most courageous thing to do, because then you're with a group of people that you're comfortable with. And if somebody's saying something or talking something and you don't raise your voice, it's because I'm not there. Because maybe if I'm there, you're like, oh, well, yeah, hey, why did you say that? That's not right, Jordan? But me not being there, and somebody saying something terrible or something really off the cuff or something wrong, and you standing up and saying that's not right. You're risking your friend group.
Yeah.
You're risking getting ostracized from a group that you might have been since high school or whatever, and you thought that was cool. And now there's so many friend groups that is fucking awkward, because it was before all this George Floyd and all this other stuff. People were in a mentality of having a friends group and just being able to say off the cuff stuff.
Yeah.
And everyone kind of laughing, maybe kind of awkward, but nobody's saying anything. And now after this, it's kind of, man, that person, that friend group that says something off the cuff, is kind of like, whoa, like, buddy, like, did you get the message? Like, could be recorded right now. Like, fuck, we could be on fucking, I could lose my fucking job if it's on fucking, and these are the cool things that I think that if you're going to ask how you can help, if you're going to ask how, I get that a lot. Like, what can I do about, helping, the cause or the thing or buy black or I just say, it starts there. That's the most fundamental thing. Because if you're curious that way and you're courageous that way, then it just trickles down to everything else you fucking do to help us out, right? So.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Absolutely.
George.
Been a pleasure.
Absolutely. Been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you for tuning into this episode. You can learn more about George Sully and his brands at georgesully.com.
And check out more episodes of Cast of Creators on YouTube, your favorite podcast platform, or visit castofcreators.com. And don't forget to like and subscribe.